I will be looking at the grade boundaries for 2022. Now, when exam boards determine grades, they do this by setting grade boundaries. Grade boundaries are the minimum number of marks needed for each grade. In 2022, examiners will set grade boundaries after they see how students have answered exam questions. This is what happens every year that students take exams. So in the first part of this video, I'm going to show you, using this bar that you have in front of you, how they rank students. Examiners this year, though, will be more generous when setting grade boundaries than they were in 2019, when summer exams last took place. This will provide a safety net for students who might otherwise have just missed out on a higher grade. In 2020 and 2021, when GCSE, AS and A-level grades were determined by teachers, national outcomes were higher than is normally the case. This year, for GCSE, AS and A-level, examiners will aim for a national grading standard at a midway point between the results that you had in 2021 and those in 2029. What they said in the news was they aim for a midpoint between the pre-pandemic, when exams were last done, and in the pandemic levels of the November papers that were done for those students who wanted to improve their grades. However, the grading will be monitored by the experts at the exam boards every step of the way. So if they need to make some changes, then they may do that. Of course, it's also going to be reviewed by Ofqual. Now, let me quickly explain this bar that you have in front of you. Every single year, exam grades are determined after they have put every single student in the whole country in rank order. What we mean by this is they will put the top students at the top and the ones at the bottom, right at the bottom. And this is, of course, depending on how many marks you achieved on the paper. And of course, they're going to put the higher students and the foundation students into those areas. So you've got the higher here, and you've got your foundation. And they will find a formula that will filter the foundation students into this rank. Of course, you're expecting the foundation students to be here because the maximum grade they can get is between 1 to 5, with 5 being the maximum. Whereas on the higher paper, you can go from a grade 3 all the way to a grade 9. So you'd expect most of this to be filled with the higher students. Now, the government, every single year, they decide that they want to give a certain percentage or a proportion of grades out. So for example, let's say this is grade 4 and let's call this grade 7. So therefore, they will say we want to only give, and I'm only making this up, let's say around 20% of the grades from grade 7, 8 and 9. And they may also say that we want to give a percentage, and again I'm making this up, let's say 20% of the grades to be less than 4. And of course, that means that all of this will be the remaining grades, 60%. Now remember, I am making these values up just to give you an idea. The point of this is they will rank everyone in here. So all the students of this country who have sat the exam will be in these rank order. So if you've got, for example, let's say 68 marks on a paper out of 240, you may be somewhere here, okay? As an example. If you've got something like, let's say 200 marks, you may be up there. So this is how they do it. And then if you're falling into those percentages after they've taken those markings, then you will be given your grade. Hopefully I've explained that really well. If not, then have a look at the next slide, because that's all you need to concern yourself with. Now, if you look at these two tables for 2019 and 2021, they will show you how many grades of each grade they gave out. So if you have a look at this here, grade 5, you could see that 14.8% of the grades were awarded at grade 5 in 2019. And in 2021, that was up to 17.9%. So you can clearly see they had increased it. Remember, they had lowered the grade boundaries. So what they want to do here is they want to come to a midpoint between those two. And if you look to the right of these two tables, you will see this graph making the bell curve, which you may have seen some people use. But I know that most of you are not too fussed with all this data. You just want to know what this mark might get you. So what we'll do now is look at the 2019 grade boundaries and the 2021 grade boundaries for GCSE Maths, for both Edexcel and AQA. So if we start with Edexcel, you can see the 2019 and 2021 grade boundaries. Now, let's have a look at this. Remember, there are 240 marks in both the higher and the foundation paper. Out of those marks, let's say on the foundation paper, 184 marks, which is roughly 77%, would give you a grade 5. Whereas on the higher paper, you only needed 80 marks in 2019 out of 240 to get you a grade 5, which was around 33%. In 2021, a grade 5 on the foundation paper was requiring you to only have 166 marks, which is 69%. For the higher tier, you needed 65 marks out of 240 to get a grade 5, which is 27%. And if you have a look at some of the other grades, in 2019, you needed 198 marks out of 240 marks to get yourself a grade 9, 83%. In 2021, you needed lower than that. You needed 187 marks out of 240, which was 78%. And you can compare that to whatever grade you're aiming to get. Now, we're going to look at the same thing for AQA, and then we are going to draw the midpoint between those two, and then use this as a prediction. So you have to be very clear about that. This is a prediction based on what information they have given us. If you are an AQA student, then you must know that in 2019, for a grade 5 on the foundation paper, you needed 157 marks. For 2021, you only needed 145 marks on the foundation paper to get a grade 5, which is 60%. And of course, in 2019, it was 65%. For the higher tier, you needed 74 marks after 240 to get a grade 5. And in 2021, you needed less than that. You only needed 62 marks out of 240, which is 26%. And you could have a look at all the other marks as well. So for example, if you are a grade 7 target student, then in 2019, grade 7, you only needed 136 marks, and in 2021, you needed 119 marks, which was 57 and 50% of the papers respectively. So let's now have a look at the midpoint between those gradings of 2019 and 2021. So here we have the predicted grade boundaries for Edexcel and AQA GCSE Maths. These marks and these percentages are the midpoint between 2019 and 2021. So have a look at this table carefully. So if you are Edexcel, you need to be looking at this one. If you are AQA, then you need to be looking at this one. So let's go through it. To get a grade 4 on the Edexcel, we are predicting on the foundation paper, if you're a foundation student, 142 marks out of 240, 59%. For a grade 5, 175 marks, 73% for foundation. Notice that I haven't included these because we are only looking at those critical grades, 4 and a 5 for the foundation. For the higher, for the Edexcel, you need 45 marks out of 240, we're looking at 19%. 73 marks out of 240, around 30% to get grade 5. For a grade 6, 101 out of 240, around 42%, and so on and so forth. You can have a look at it in front of you. I won't go through all of them. For the AQA, we are looking at, for a grade 4 on the foundation, 115 marks, 48%, and 151 marks out of 240 for a grade 5. For the higher tier, we're looking at, for a grade 4, 39 marks, around 16%. If you want a grade 5, we're looking at 68 marks out of 240 for 28%. For a grade 9, let's jump to grade 9, you need around 199 marks, 83%. So you can see the rest for yourselves depending on what grades you have. So these are our predicted grade boundaries for both Edexcel and AQA Maths based on the information that has been provided to us. Hopefully this video has helped you understand the grade boundaries for 2022. I'd like to take this opportunity to wish every single one of you the best of success, and I will see you in the next video.